Thanks everybody for joining us today. We've got just a great group of people. Very, very happy. We're grateful to hear and see everybody joining us today for the Make Impact Consortium, the launch of the first European hub of the Make Impact Consortium. It is a collaboration coordination currently between MIT and 13 schools around the world. You're tuning in, and most of my friends, including Rick Manus, is there at the Fontys school in Eindhoven. Say hi, Rick.
Hey everybody, welcome. Great to have you all here. Great that so many of you were so enthusiastic and replied so eagerly. We're really happy with that. I think it will be a great day today. I hope it will be valuable for you. I think it will. So let's see what today has to bring.
Rick, do you want to take us through the agenda for the day?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to start a bit with the agenda and the planning for today. Of course, people could already have seen it online, but first we will do the intro. We have Jean Sasso from MIT, from the Make Impact Consortium. We had a fantastic collaboration together with setting this up. So, well, yeah, thanks Jean for that, first to start with that. And myself, of course, from Fontys Center for Entrepreneurship. And we do this in collaboration, of course, with the School of Engineering of Fontys. Ella will be speaking later on, as you can already see on the schedule. But let's first start with Martin Culpepper from MIT. He's a professor there, and he will be taking us along on what it means to be a member of the Make Impact Consortium. And then Ella from Fontys, the director here of the Engineering Institute, will tell us a bit more about the impact it had on this institute of becoming a member. After a short break, with some nice videos for kind of an entertaining purpose. You could also get a coffee in the meantime if you want to during the break. We will proceed to the next part, and it's basically about how to enrich your campus innovation and entrepreneurship activities. Also true, of course, this Make Impact Consortium. First, Thomas van der Sterre. He is one of the students at Fontys. He will be starting his talk. He's leading the MakersPlayce here at Fontys, but he will tell you all about it. I don't want to spill the beans too much. After that case, we'll proceed a bit about the applied research and how we involve companies here, also in relationship to the consortium. And finally, Victor will tell a bit more about the entrepreneurial competences that we use here and how that is brought in practice and what is taken along from the entrepreneurship perspective in the engineering and the Make Impact Consortium activities. We will proceed with Jean again. Jean will tell us a bit more about the Make Impact Challenge winners that we have seen over the last couple of months or weeks, if I'm correct. I already saw some newsletters coming by, and it looked great. I saw a lot of enthusiastic students, so I guess that's a good sign. And last but not least, we have Jelle. Jelle is from Brainport Development and also the Gate, which is an organization in Eindhoven, a regional organization. And he will tell a bit more about how this Make Impact Consortium impacts the regional ecosystem, and primarily, of course, focused on innovation and startups. Again, a short break, probably 10 minutes. Again, a nice video for you. And again, an opportunity to get a coffee or something. And then we go to the last part, in which Martin and Jean will talk a bit more about what is upcoming. Also for you to get a bit of an impression about, hey, what activities can I expect in the upcoming months, and where could we collaborate on potentially? And then last but not least, we have the breakout sessions. So of course, we have been speaking a lot during the day, but we want to give you the opportunity in the floor as well. We will make 3 breakout rooms probably, and in that you can speak about everything you want, offer all your questions, and we hope to have a constructive discussion and to give you a bit more details that you're still looking for. And finally, and I hope that it's 4 o'clock then in the afternoon in European time, most of Europe probably, we will do a bit of a wrap up, and we will end the day. I think that was about it, Jean.
Terrific, Rick. It is a full day, and we're very grateful for everybody joining us this afternoon. We're going to kick off, and I'm very pleased to introduce to you Martin Culpepper. He's a professor of mechanical engineering at MIT. He's actually MIT's first Maker Czar, which is an august title for an august guy. Very passionate about all aspects of making and breaking, as we all well know. And he's a person who's so well versed at this activity, known really around the world as really one of the preeminent experts in making in academic environments. He's a recipient of NSF Presidential Early Career Award, 2 R&D 100 awards, a TR 100 award, and he is a recipient of several teaching awards on campus. He says he's not afraid of getting his hands dirty. His favorite maker tools are mills and water jets, and he's very fond of glass blowing as well. He's my boss. He's the leader of the Make Impact Consortium in many respects. He leads the Project Manus team at MIT.
Gene, thanks for the introduction, everyone. I want to welcome you to this meeting. I have 20 minutes. It's a short amount of time, but in those 20 minutes, I'm going to help you understand why we even have a consortium. We're going to dig back into the past, that really, the problems we were experiencing, other schools, what they were experiencing, that gave birth to the idea that we needed a consortium. That'll bring us to the present, where we'll talk about the members of the consortium right now, the benefits, basically the what's in it for them. And then we'll talk a little bit about the future and what we plan to do in the future, the Make Impact Consortium, and that's a future that we hope that you are all a part of. So, it really was the struggles of the past that led us to the fact that we needed this consortium. And so there's no better way to tell this story than to help walk you through MIT's path with respect to trying to improve our own innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem on campus. If we go back 6 years ago, MIT was in big trouble. We had students coming to campus, more innovators and entrepreneurs than ever before. And so about 6 years ago, we started to see these patterns that the things that we'd done for decades to support innovation and entrepreneurship on our campus weren't working. And we couldn't quite put our finger on it. We didn't know exactly what it was that were causing these problems. And by we, what I mean are, a group of 3 people we call the 3 Musketeers. So the first person in this group is the provost of MIT. And I remember when I became Maker Czar, he pulled me to the side and he said, Marty, this is a threat to the way that we do things at MIT. We are about innovation, entrepreneurship, technology, and we're just not serving our students right. We have to solve this problem. And through his actions as provost, he's launched several initiatives at MIT that are focused on making design, innovation, making, and entrepreneurship better for all of our students. So I came on board as the first Maker Czar, and it was really my job to figure out how is it that we marshal our maker spaces and like resources to be able to support innovation. I became the leader of an effort to build an innovation center centered around a large maker space at MIT, which we call Innovation Hub West, which is supposed to be the gold standard in what we believe will be maker spaces in the future. Now, a friend of mine over in the business school, Professor Bill Aulette, he and I are good friends, and he was very concerned about the issues we were facing at the same time. Bill runs the Martin Trust Center, which is the place on our campus where all the different schools, School of Engineering, School of Science, School of Business, come together to do entrepreneurship. So Bill and I started hopping on planes. We went and visited other universities. We were trying to learn from others whether or not they had the same problems. And lo and behold, what we found was that almost everybody we ran into had the same sorts of issues. And what was even more frightening than this is we visited some schools that had these issues and they didn't even know that these were problems. And it was a very difficult journey for us, I won't lie. We learned some very hard facts throughout this, that MIT was doing things in a way that were not going to be the way of the future. We also ran into a lot of people that we knew, we'll call them naysayers, that were going to make this difficult for MIT to have cultural change with respect to this. And we started to hear things like, we don't need to change our maker spaces. The maker spaces we have right now will do the job. All the way to crazy things like, at some schools saying, look, fine, yeah, we could do all these changes, but what we really care about is looking innovative to our alums so that we can do fundraising, right? And I think you see the pattern here. The pattern in all of this was that, these were all just fundamentally wrong. All right. And it took us years to get this figured out. Bill and I spent a lot of money and time on programming to understand what is it really that drives the innovative students on our campus. And like I said, there were some hard facts that we learned. I'm going to give you an example here. If you want to do technology-based innovation on your campus, you've got to have the right kind of makerspaces. All right. There are 3 different kinds of makerspaces that you can have on a college campus. We learned this. We didn't know this at first. And there's one that's really good at solving the problems that innovators have. And so we're going to help you understand right now, what is that right kind of innovation makerspace by playing a game. All right. Everybody likes games. All right. So this is the game that we're going to play. We're going to make an analogy to living spaces. So forget about makerspace for the moment. This will become clear why we're doing this in a minute. On the screen, what we have are 3 columns. Each one of these columns represents either a home, an apartment, or a hotel. 3 different kinds of living spaces. In this game, it's your job to figure out which is which. Now, in these different living spaces, they all have a living room. They all have a kitchen. They've all got a bathroom, and each and every one of them has a bedroom. All right. So I'm going to be quiet here for 20 seconds. I know it's hard for tenured professors to do this, but I'm going to be quiet for about 20 to 30 seconds and let you see if you can figure out which one of these is a home, which one of these is an apartment, and which one of these is a hotel. So everybody go ahead, take your best crack at it, and I'll come back to you in about 20 or 30 seconds. This is usually the part where I see people struggling. I can't see your faces, but I know that you're looking at the stuff in these spaces. So you're looking at this stuff and you're trying to figure out which one is the home based on that. Well, I ask you the following. Is it really the stuff in your home that makes it a home? And the answer is no, it's not that. It's the community, the family that you have in the home. It's the ownership that you feel in your home. It's the identity that you have. We're going to come back to this in a minute, but the moral of the story is that's the kind of makerspace that innovators like to have, these makerspaces where they feel at home. Now, here's the right answers, okay? And I'm not going to ask who got these right because, to be honest with you, if you got them right, I'm 100% sure it was just luck that led you to get the right answer, okay? Because stuff isn't what defines what makes one of these spaces tick, okay? So, why was this important? Why should we care about this? Well, at MIT, for decades, we had built this, innovation ecosystem to support our students in their building, designing, etc. But what has happened over time, what had happened over time, was that the students weren't using it. They were building things in their bedrooms. And if you look at the second physical location, the students, the innovators were actually leaving campus to go build things, right? You think about MIT and all the high tech, et cetera. We had our greatest, machines, but it didn't matter to the students, right? They didn't care because we weren't providing it in the way that they needed to do their innovation. Well, this led us to understand the following. There's a type of makerspace called a community makerspace that the innovators love. And once we understood that we were imbalanced in that respect, it led MIT to start investing in these new types of spaces and also converting some of the spaces into these community spaces so that we had the right places for our students to work. Now, that was a very simple realization, but we had to make it. And the way that we made this happen is we engaged the students. We had them help us build the kinds of maker spaces that they wanted. We engaged senior leadership. So you can see here on the right-hand side, our provost, our head lawyer, head of our safety at MIT, head of resource development, and then eventually our president, Raphael Reif, on the left here, working on fundraising for us. This was a huge concerted effort at MIT to work on this problem because we wanted to build the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem of the future, right? So we made great strides in that. We didn't do it alone. We learned a lot from other people. And we learned a lot ourselves, and we want to share that with other people. But I have to tell you, it was a very frustrating journey for us. Cost us a lot of money. It took a lot of time. And we don't think that it's really necessary for you all to go through that. This is one of the reasons for the consortium, is that you can learn from other people's successes and failures. So my question to you right now is, where are you at in that journey? Have you started to look at how long it's going to take you to adapt to what's coming in the future and how much it's going to cost you? You know, and even more important, you know, what happens if you miss the boat on this? You know, eventually everybody's going to have to adapt to the new way of doing things. And for my part, I think it's better if we do it sooner rather than later. In the consortium, we can all do this better and faster if we work together, we collaborate, and we share. And so thus the reason for the consortium. This is really a group of peer schools working together, learning from each other, so that we can all get to the end result faster for all of our students. And so that brings us to the present day, right? The consortium, born out of needs at MIT, born out of needs of other universities around the globe, and here are those members. So in our first phase, we started with the founding members, and we were very thoughtful over the first couple of years of the consortium, trying to figure out what is it that would be most valuable to our students? What is it that our university really needs out of this consortium for it to be valuable to us? And there's a lot of things that we as a group of like-minded universities have developed. Now, I won't have time to go through each of these individually. We'll have more time throughout the day to discuss them. But I'll go through a few of them here to help you understand, you know, the kinds of things that you can expect as part of the consortium. Now, to be honest with you, of all these things here, the most important is just you understanding your customers, innovators, entrepreneurs. This is one of the key things they have to do to be successful, and we have to do this with our students. And so that involves research and understanding, you know, how we actually use the resources that we have on campus. So, for example, it was a very hard lesson for us to learn at MIT that we would staff these maker spaces and innovation spaces from 8 to 4, and then people would go home. But did you realize that at MIT and most other schools, that's the time when the innovators and the entrepreneurs they're not interested in doing innovation and entrepreneurship because they're busy with other things, right? And I have schools that say, well, you know, we've done this forever. You know, we can't really afford to keep these spaces open outside of those hours. And my answer is, well, you can't afford not to solve this. Oh, and by the way, we know how to do this without a lot of added cost, right? And we're happy to help people understand how to do that, right? So one of the benefits of the consortium is really understanding what your students need and then rapidly being able to react to that. Now, there's also people parts of these problems. You know, for example, the students don't often want to learn from a technician. They would prefer to learn from one of their peers, whether it be an undergraduate student, graduate student, postdoc, etc. And people say, well, you know, that's not safe. Why should we do these sorts of things? You know, is it really valuable? Well, the reason for this, and I'll appeal to the parents in the group. The reason for this is the following. I mean, your children get to a point where they don't want to hang out with you all the time, right? I mean, it happens. Doesn't mean we're bad parents. You know, the students don't always want to hang out with technicians that are 40, 50 years old like me. They want to hang out with their friends and learn from their friends. Well, an interesting thing that we found when we ran experiments running these new kinds of spaces was that we actually found if you get the students involved, those spaces become more safe. Safety improves. It doesn't go down. We also found that the student experience, the inspiration that happens in the space that drives innovation gets better. And then in addition to that, the costs that are required to run these spaces go down as well. Counterintuitive, but very useful thing to learn. So once we understand, you know, the things that make these spaces and ecosystems tick, it's time to make the rubber hit the road. And how do we do that? We do that through boot camps, where yes, we have a little bit of lecturing time, not very much, but then we put you to work on a real problem your university has. And for example, in this boot camp, it was how do you build one of these spaces that the innovators want to come to? So we actually have the participants build a makerspace from scratch. We start out with the room, they bring in the machines, they lay them out, they run through the programming, the way the space will be run, etc., so that it attracts the innovators and the entrepreneurs to this space. Now, the consortium wouldn't be much good if we didn't engage the students. And so we have these design competitions where students from across the world compete, and we give them a real problem to solve. These aren't the sort of, work on it, and at the end of the day, you get a grade in a class and it's nice, everybody's happy. I mean, these are real problems that they have to solve, and they know if they solve them, it'll make a huge impact on people's lives. And so we give them a problem, they form teams, they come up with their own ideas. We provide a lot of mentorship and education for them. They then compete. and give pitches, and then there are prizes. I believe this last cycle we gave $8,000 to $10,000 in prizes out. And I got to tell you, this experience was fantastic, not only for me, but I know for the students. What you're looking at on the screen right now is a screenshot of the final pitches, all right? And that absolute magic, right? Absolute magic, these students giving the pitches, hearing from their fellow students, seeing how well that they did. I've heard from students that said, you know, when I first got into this, I was very nervous. I didn't know if I could compete with these other schools. But over time, I became more confident, and now I know that I can do this sort of thing, all right? It was a transformative experience for many of these students, and you'll hear more about these sorts of things as the day goes along. That brings us to consider really at present, what are all the things that you have access to? Imagine if you tried to stand up the resources to support all these things on your own, how long it would take and how much it would cost, right? You get access to all these things through the consortium. Let's talk a little bit about the future. In the future, we're going to continue to do all the same sorts of things that we've done right now up to this point, but we're going to work more on connecting people so that we can do those things better. So we really do have a global community here within the consortium, and we're going to work very hard to make sure that our students through design competitions and through exchange programs to make sure that students are able to interact and connect with each other, including travel between universities, right? Really interested in making sure that the students are connected. Now, the following point, and I don't want you to underestimate the value of this, right, is building a peer network. So your peers at these other universities, being able to leverage them to help you get done what you need to get done. And I kid you not, I can't tell you the number of times at MIT where I could not get people to try something, and I knew it had worked someplace else, but people said, we don't believe that'll work here. And I had to call somebody up on the phone and say, hey, can you help me out? Can you come and talk to these folks and help them understand? And they always said yes. And then even, you know, sometimes they'd say, and we'll bring the data to show people that this can work. All right, that's a valuable thing to be able to have. And then the last thing is connection between spaces. As I mentioned before, I'm setting up Innovation Hub West at MIT. Now that's meant to be different from any sort of innovation-centric makerspace, in that, you know, we're not just going to live within the walls of our makerspace. We don't think that's the future of makerspaces and innovation in the university. We're going to make it so that we can connect out to people, share programming, enable students to connect. And so as a part of, you know, the consortium, as a member of the consortium, you'll be able to have access to that space and then to connect with all the other people that are connected to that space. And yes, there are benefits from a programming standpoint, etc. But the real benefit comes from being able to interact with the students, right? Your students and our students, et cetera, being able to connect. And so what I'm gonna do right now is play for you a short video that highlights some of the innovators, the entrepreneurs and the makers that have been helping us, some of the students helping us build these new types of innovation maker spaces. And then after this, I'll have a few comments, and then we'll move on to Ellen. You can hear from her directly what this meant to her.
As a child, I was absolutely obsessed with Legos.
I found the book on building a robot.
It's in my blood. Making is in my blood.
Oh my God, the cold saw, the best thing in the world. It's beautiful. Like, cold saw was my crush. It feels really badass. I'm not sure if I can say that on camera, but it really does feel like, oh wow, I just used that very scary machine and I made something with it out of metal.
Where else on the planet are you going to have a high density of people that simultaneously build things and they want to be nerds?
I was around 13 or 14 at the time, and here I am now.
MIT students are the craziest, and I mean that in a good and loving way, the craziest bunch of people that I have ever had to work with. I mean, like, you know, students that said they were going to design a gadget that Batman has to climb up walls, like to climb up 3 stories in a few seconds. And you think, well, that's crazy talk. And then 3 months later, they have the prototype built and they demonstrate it. The students are everything in a makerspace.
One of the mentors actually I was sitting in MakerWorks complaining about how my fish tails, they're not turning out well, and he's like, I can help you out with that. Turns out he had like a lot of experience with molding out stuff. So he told me like, oh, this is how you wanted to make it, this is where the air vents have to be, and then actually showed me how to 3D print. And now I'm on the laser cutting team myself, which is kind of funny.
It goes beyond just the training, because training alone, okay, you learn how to use a machine, so what? But by talking to the mentors, the staff of the MIT MakerWorks, you learn tips and tricks, you learn stories, you learn, you know, what works, what doesn't work. It's sort of passing on that engineering making tradition. There's that cliche of, you know, you learn through failure. The trick is you learn through other people's failures, you know, because then you don't have to make as many failures yourself, right? I mean, you're still going to fail eventually, but at least you can sort of speed up the process by learning from other people's mistakes.
Did you ever build that robot?
I did. I actually still have it. I kept it all these years. And I still have it with me as a reminder of you know, my roots, where I came from.
Here.
So a couple of things I want to point out there before we move along. Nina, did you happen to notice how she said she was inspired by one of the other students that helped mentor her in one of these spaces? That's important because you need inspiration in spaces like these to fuel innovation, right? The other thing was Aaron mentioned about learning from other people's failures and successes. It's hard for students to do that when you don't have these spaces where students are actively engaged, right? They have to learn from each other. And then the last thing is the Batman thing that I mentioned in the video, students coming up with an idea to build something like that. A true story, they actually did it, started a company, and that company found its genesis in one of these innovation makerspaces. All right, so we're very hopeful that you'll be able to find value in this and that you'll be able to join us as part of the consortium, because in this consortium, you know, we really all are about helping to foster students with design, innovation, making, and entrepreneurship, and working together to make it easy and fast for all of us to make more impact together. So with that, I'll end my presentation. Turn it back over to Jean and Ella.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you so much. You know, Marty, a couple of quick takeaways. It's leading to innovation. Love that little bit. And the bandsaw. I mean, the cold saw is my crush. Like, come on, like that's just gold. That's maker gold there, isn't it, Marty? You're muted, Marty. You're muted. You're muted. I really would like. Yep, there you are, Marty. There you are, Marty.
All right. Very quickly. All right. One other thing that I'll tell you is that we've had a lot of schools say, okay, well, that's fine and good. You know, we understand you can do this at MIT, but we don't have students like that. That's absolutely wrong, right? Where I've ever been, you know, at Fontys, you find them. At the University of Derby, you find them, right? These students exist at your university. It's just how you unlock them. All right,
exactly.
Off to you, Jim.
And our colleague has been just phenomenal at that unlocking. I think, Marty, you and I agree at that. Ella, it's so great to see you this morning, and we're just so happy to be doing this collaboration today as we launch this new hub, this first hub in Europe. Ella is a great friend and a colleague. She's had an illustrious career as an educator and an administrator. She's led the student making initiatives at Fontys, and the relationship building resulting in Fontys becoming a founding member of the Make Impact Consortium. And I know that an excellent, wonderful colleague of Marty as things were going on. In fact, you know, I've heard some comparisons with Princess Leia and Ella, and if Ella is Princess Leia, then Marty is definitely Luke Skywalker. You know, here's a person who's spent a good part of her career, and with this kind of culmination, with the kind of energy that you see at Fontys and all of the great competitions. So without further ado, as formidable with a water jet cutter as she is with a lightsaber. My good friend and colleague Ella. Ella, please say hello.
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Jean. I like your introduction very much. And yes, I totally agree with Marty that students really like to help each other and to learn from each other. And but we also got a lot of help from MIT, especially the people and the staff of Marty when we started our MakersPlayce. And I would like to take you along through our journey at Fontys. And first of all, I would like to welcome all my colleagues from all over Europe. It is great. Some of you I have been speaking to personally, and I'm so glad that we can meet today, although it is still digitally, of course. But I hope to meet you all next autumn or next year in real life. And by phone, we already made some appointments with some of you, so I really like to see you real life. But it's good to see you now as well. And as Fontys, we have, of course, many international partners, as we are quite a large university. But for now, we exclusively invited you. And we invited you because you are our European partners in the engineering field. And even more important, you are known for your entrepreneurship. And as you heard by Marty, entrepreneurship is very important regarding the Make Impact Consortium. Today, I want to tell you how enthusiastic Fontys is about the cooperation with the Make Impact Consortium. I really would like to take you along through our journey the past few years, and also about the benefits that we got from being a member of this consortium, and especially for our students, which of course is the most important thing. Our goal for today is to create a European community within the Make Impact Consortium to stimulate innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship in our students. Well, I'm going to share my presentation right now. Let's see if this happens. This is always the most important moment of the meeting. Yes, there we are. I hope you can all see it.
Yes, we can see
Yeah?
it. Thanks, Hill. Yep.
Okay. Then I go to the next slide. It's all about working together, preparing for the future. You have to be in it, you have to join when you will be prepared for the future. And also we have to work together within Europe. Well, we know all about the politics statements. And I think as entrepreneurial universities here in Europe, I think it's very important to work together. And the Make Impact Consortium is a unique opportunity for us. I first would like to tell you how it all started. Well, it started because we already visited MIT for several years together with Jan Weesink. Some of you know already too. And this is how we managed to meet Professor Culpepper, Marty, in 2017. And 2017, Janne visited one of the first meetings from the Make Impact Consortium. And we went together there in April 2018 to a meeting at the office of Professor Culpepper. And we were really hit, we were really so convinced regarding his enthusiasm he creates to his students and his staff, and especially his enthusiasm about making. And this is when we started to thinking of becoming a founding member of the Make Impact Consortium. In February 2019, a year later, Professor Culpepper visited our university. And he held a lecture for our students, for our staff, and they reacted so positively, they were so enthusiastic that we were really convinced we would have to take this opportunity, and we should be a founding member of the Make Impact Consortium, and we never regretted it. And of course, yeah, the Make Impact Consortium, as Marty told you, is founded by MIT, and MIT is leading engineering education. Well, I don't need to tell you more, but this is also a very important opportunity to us, of course. And then what did it mean for Fontys? For Fontys, well, what was very important, that when we look to the goals of the Make Impact Consortium, it's always about integration of technology, innovation, making, and entrepreneurship, and about making impact with and to the students. And when you look at the mission of Fontys Engineering School, we also want to make impact, and also we want to bring an inspiring learning environment for our students. and working together and educating creative engineering with entrepreneurial skills. So this is very important to us, and we think we very much succeeded regarding making our MakersPlayce to improve these skills of our students. So why should you become a member of the Make Impact Consortium? First of all, it is very important for your students because it gives you unique possibilities. And I don't tell that much about it because later on one of our students, Thomas, will tell you more about it. But let me tell you that we saw that it helps to improve the entrepreneurial skills and the creativity in our students. And it gives you unique opportunities to have a part in the international community as well, which is very important for our students for the future. But what it's nice about it, that it's not only for students, it's also important for our staff. We saw how enthusiastic our staff is to join us during the boot camps, during the symposia that we had, and also what they see, what happens to the students. And which is very important as well, of course, that it gives us access to the MIT people that helped us a lot last year, also during this COVID period. Well, the impact on the Fontys students and the staff, we talked already about the boot camps. We had boot camps, we had a digital symposium, we had a COVID challenge, and our students all take part in these meetings. And on the left, you see my certification of the boot camp that we had in Derby, and some pictures about, even I succeeded. This was a boot camp for about 1 week. And 4 of our students came with us. They're over here in the second picture. And one of them you'll meet in the next presentation. Some more too, I think, in the movies. And on the right side, you see all the other members of this bootcamp and also people from our staff. There's even one staff member that used the knowledge to start a master program about system design that we start next year. So this really was of a great help, what we've been doing there. Also, my colleague Victor participated later on in a symposium that we had together with MIT regarding the entrepreneurial skills. Then later on, there was a symposium in 2019. That is where we presented the MakersPlayce of our students, and also our partner university here at the campus, TUE, presented the innovation space, which really was a very great experience for our students. And what we also did, we talked a lot about what could we do during the COVID time, how could we get help from digital practicals, sending equipment at home to the students, and help them getting through this winter. So MIT and Make Impact Consortium really were of a great help last year. And then, of course, maybe the most important thing is the Fontys MakersPlayce. Thomas will tell you later about it because it's about making, and of course you all know making is also about playing. We started with 4 students and now we already have 8, so it really is a growing community, and it's also nice to be part of the bigger community all over the world, of course, for the students as well. Marty told you already about the challenge. During this COVID period, we also had a challenge by the Make Impact Consortium with universities from all over the world and students from all over the world. I think we started with 63 teams, and 5 of them were from Fontys, and 3 Fontys teams were in the finals, and we won the 3rd prize, so we're very proud of that, of course. And this was a great experience. It was like, well, we're in the lockdown, But even then, all students were talking about it, teachers were talking about it. It was like, yeah, really, we can go on. We have something nice to work on. And well, this really helped us survive in winter. Well, what does it mean for the future? Regarding Fontys roadmap to the Make Impact Consortium until 2025, we already started the MakersPlayce, and we hope it will keep on, of course. Now we are out of the lockdown, I hope in September. This is what is happening in the Netherlands. And but we want to go on not only a MakersPlayce for the engineering students, but also for students from other disciplines in Fontys. We want to recruit more industry. We want to share our knowledge, experience, and our learning about the makerspaces and our ecosystem here in Eindhoven. We are also starting doing research about how Makerspace contributes to learning outcomes from students and content sharing. And of course, this is why we're here today. Today, we want to build a regional or European network as a subset of the Make Impact Consortium, working together, preparing for the future. Thank you.
Ella, thank you so much. You know, there are some there's so many takeaways from you and that endorsement. You know, you talk about about design and innovation and entrepreneurship and making. Is there an aspect that has been the big one that, as far as you're concerned, what part of that is the secret sauce so far? Or can you comment on that at all, please?
Yeah, for us, I think, well, we should ask the students, but I think that they will say the most interesting is that this makerspace is run by students. It's all for them. It's them, they have the budget, they buy the equipment, they make the courses. So it's all by them and it's all for the students. So of course we are coaching a little bit about safety and all this stuff. Of course, we have to do that as a university.
Details.
But really something from the students. Yeah, no details, but anyway.
It's no surprise to me, Ella, that you bring it back to students. You know, that's absolutely that's the focus of so much of this, and what I've learned so much from you in my time in this role. It's back to the students, or it's not back to really anything at all. You're not doing the right things if you're not back to the students. And I applaud you and your colleagues at Fontys for that excellence and that focus.
Hello all. It must be a lot of hard work reaching this stage, so congratulations to you all. I'm Yash from Team Sanctum, the winner of the last COVID-19 Design Challenge. Regardless of whether you win this competition now or not, there are numerous ways to reach your goal, and the satisfaction when you reach there is going to be worth your efforts.
So after the competition, we spent another 8 months of changing the product market fit before we have our first customer. So it's really the perseverance after the competition that really counts.
With COVID, it's all about safe and clean. There's no wrong answer. There's many right answers, and many of them have not been discovered yet or implemented. We're excited about this challenge.
What's changed physically is the process of a doorman getting the door for a car that pulls up and pulling the luggage out. That doesn't happen right now.
O yar benim kime ne? Belki hep beraber. Haydar haydar. O yar benim kime ne?
I just want to pick up a couple of the themes that we've heard so far. We've heard about well, it's the acronym DIME. It's design, innovation, making, and entrepreneurship, and that's a big part of what the consortium brings together for all the consortium members. We're going to hear from the students. The students are what this is really truly all about. It's about the different organizations around the table enabling success for the students, and certainly as we see it, that success focuses in on the combination of things like people, process, content, technology. All of those things come together to create a great makerspace and to create a great consortium. Those are the things that it does certainly focus in on, and of course that's all with the idea that student success is behind it all. We're helping enable, we're helping train the next generation of students who are going off into the workforce in a very changed environment. Nobody saw COVID coming, and there we were with the consortium team members and the individual students. Over 200 students entered the design challenge in February, took it through March, and it was quite a lot of energy around the world, around the globe. We're going to hear from one of those students who's based in Fontys. His name is Thomas. I want to make sure that we've got a check on Thomas being ready. Rick, yeah? Yeah, okay, good. So what I've heard about Thomas, and I've seen some of the evidence of some of his work. He's a fourth-year student majoring in mechatronics. He's working towards his graduation right now. As we speak, he should probably be working on it and not doing this. There's Thomas. He looks like he's got his white knuckling kind of time right now. Besides his really terrific academic achievements, he heads up. He's the chairperson of the MakersPlayce. Correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, when you come online here. It's earned really such renown as a student-run making environment. As far as I understand, and Thomas, please correct me also, you plan to pursue a career in robotics or maybe F1 racing? Is that a possibility? F1 racing? Is it? No, not that.
No, I'm just going for robotics.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Well, you know, an F1 robot, like, wow, it just blew my mind, Thomas. Like, how did you come up with that idea? All right. Well, Thomas, I'm going to hand it over to you. You don't need an old guy talking. We really want to hear from the student's perspective. Thanks very much, Thomas.
Yeah. All right. Let me share my PowerPoint. Let's see if it takes it.
There we go. It's coming, I think.
Yeah.
It's that famous delay, that famous Microsoft Teams delay. There you go.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
you're on, Thomas. You're good.
All right. Super, super. Well, thank you for the introduction. I am Thomas, the fourth-year student mechatronics, and also the chairman of MakersPlayce. I will be, well, shortly, briefly giving you a little bit of a introduction to our MakersPlayce, and also show you around with a tour at the end. So let's get into it. There you go. So okay, where the story begins. So although this image is in Dutch, this is my first interaction with the Make Impact Consortium and MakersPlayce, and that was while Ella was already hard at work with it. It was an article posted on the internal weblog of Fontys, and after reading that, I really got excited and I wanted to become a part of this. So after reading it, I reached out to Ella and asked if I could join in and could help out. And shortly after that, a few of my classmates wanted to join as well, and we created a small group of like-minded individuals. And with these few people, we started to expand our idea of MakersPlayce. And Fontys already had quite a lot of workspaces, but as you will shortly see, one key element of the MakersPlayce is missing, and that is what we intend to add with the MakersPlayce. So before we could march on through with our ideas, we also wanted to investigate how other universities were working on it, and that's where Make Impact Consortium helped out with one of their boot camps. So we went to with the students, as Ella already mentioned. We went to the boot camp in Derby. So at the University of Derby and MIT. We learned about how to set up a makerspace and what key elements came into play when setting one up. So our makerspace, well, it's a makerspace. MakersPlayce is a technical playground run by and made for students to challenge their creativity and imagination in their free time. So what we mean by that is we want to have the students play with the knowledge that they gain during the education and build on top of that to create their own ideas and their own follow their own ambitions. And that is also where the entrepreneurship of the makerspaces come in. But also one of the key things that we noticed with our students, and it's also something that Marty already mentioned, is the opening hours. So normally a lab is open till 5 o'clock, sometimes even 4. And this is where we, as a MakersPlayce, we're going to be different. This is where we're going to let the students come in. So our MakersPlayce is open most week evenings from 3 till 10, allowing more than enough time for students to come in and start working around. So Ella already mentioned it. Our team has grown. So these are the active students in the board of the MakersPlayce. So that's our 8 students. But of course, we already have a lot of students, around 80 students already part of the MakersPlayce, working around the shops and starting to share knowledge and to help each other, which is basically the essence. So we are an interdisciplinary group of students with also mixed nationalities, just so we can, work better amongst each other. But then the key thing out of this all is why Make Impact Consortium, why MIC? It was already mentioned in both Marty's and Ella's presentation, but there are some really cool things that stand out for the students, and that's, for example, the challenges. So MIC hosts these challenges to inspire students to join the large international community, and these challenges are not only fun to participate participate with amazing prizes. But it also includes courses on different subjects of STEAM. So that's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And so, for example, Fusion 360 or MATLAB courses were given in the previous one, and amongst others. And of course, we were super proud that during the last challenge, the Omni Hotel Resorts Challenge, a team from our university became 3rd place. So obviously, we're super proud of that. But well, like the boot camp and the other things that MIC already shown, it greatly illustrates how important it is for a platform to share knowledge. Just making sure that we can grow and learn about the different machines and skills. We can share that information, and that's of course key. And the coolest part is that it's in an international community, greatly increasing the possibilities for the students to learn, look abroad, look beyond the borders, but also to create cool innovations and look with a different mindset, because of course every culture has their own way of looking at these things. All right, so next I would like to start a tour of our MakersPlayce. We have a small video showing you around and to, well, enjoy.
Welcome to the tour of our MakersPlayce. Before we head inside, shortly, what is our MakersPlayce? Our MakersPlayce is an environment where students can come together to work on STEAM. That's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Together with the MIC, the Make Impact Consortium, universities around the world collaborate to make this possible. So, without further ado, let's start the tour.
Hello. Welcome to the general area of the MakersPlayce. I will be showing you around some of the things that can be done here. Let's get right to it. First of all, this is the desk where you can sign up. Being subscribed to the MakersPlayce doesn't cost anything. It's just for you to use tools however you want. Anyway, let's get started. So this area is designed to be a place to design and work on things. You can pull out a role and start working, collaborating as a team. We've also got some inspirational ideas and tests for 3D printing so that students can see what is possible, what can be done, and yeah, what they could possibly move on to. On the other side over here, we have an area where we have a big whiteboard and a couch area to sit, basically. This is so people can, once again, collaborate and work on ideas and bring them to life. And this is Baxter, our robot. Amongst all the things, we also have sewing machines for people to use for their own personal projects if they have it necessary. Now I will go over to the electrical area. Here we have a power supply, function generator and oscilloscope, as well as soldering irons for all your electrical needs. We also have a whole set of small pieces, so from resistors to connectors, as well as wiring. Everything under around 50 cents can be basically taken and used by students. Now we will move on to the laboratory where we have 3D printers and other things.
Welcome to the MakersPlayce workshop. This is where the students can take their ideas and to turn them into actual parts. Like you see here, he's using power tools. We have this entire for the students to use, and all these different hand tools that they can use to shape their parts with. We also have machines in the machine room, like our vacuum former, to make intricate shapes that have to be very lightweight. These are the 3D printers. We have 4 smaller ones and 2 larger ones. These can be used by the students to create their 3D models. This is the 5-axis pocket CNC. These can also be used by all the students. This machine is able to mill plastics on 5 different axes simultaneously. This is for students that are more beyond the prototyping stage and actually want to make a strong part. Now we are going to the bigger workshop.
Hi, welcome. This is a technical atelier. Here we have a few workbenches. Let's go over to a couple of the machines we have. All right, here we have a drill press with a cross table, so you can move your part in the X and Y direction without unclamping it. Over here we have two classic CNC mills. In the other workshop we have 4 newer CNCs. Then we move over here to a laser cutter that is designed for wood and plastic. You can also engrave metals on here. And if you really want to cut metal, we have over here a metal laser cutter that can actually cut thicker material. And to my left, we have 2 conventional lathes. All right, last but not least, we have our woodworking.
All right, the video tour, the audio was delayed and the ending got cut off, sadly. But that is the online environment that we're in. So I guess we're just gonna have to share the video. I also saw in the comments somebody asking if it was possible to share the video. The video will be shared, and then you guys can actually see it. The way it was intended.
So Tomas, I mean, summing up, we first of all, I want to congratulate you, with the, I don't want to jinx you either, but the upcoming graduation. Just briefly, just tell us, what the MakersPlayce has meant to you and how this has complemented or augmented your education experience.
Okay, well, the MakersPlayce, for starters, it kind of feels like a baby that you want to nurture. Of course, being there from quite early on with the MakersPlayce, it feels like quite a success already to see how far we as a team have accomplished to make this grow, and also to see, and to see how many students are actually happy to see that this is developing within our university, and how many students are actually like actively participating already. And how this has actually helped my education is that it has given me the also more the encouragement, the feeling to move more towards the machines, and to allow me to really take a product from an idea to a product, and it encouraged me to work with those machines to get that done.
Yeah, that integration, it's obvious in the work that I've seen come out of Fontys and your work specifically. So one thing, just really briefly, tell us a little bit about the international connecting that was enabled. Like, that you mentioned Darby, the other international stuff that you've been doing. Tell me a little, just briefly, how has that added to your education experience?
Well, for starters, it's always great with an international community to know that a perspective is always different from a culture to culture. I already mentioned it in the presentation, but when really collaborating with other people, and this was also seen not only during the challenges that we have, but also during the bootcamp, it really came out. And when we sat down to talk about how we were going to set up our MakersPlayce, that was probably one of the good ones where we collaborated together with the other members of the Make Impact Consortium. You really see that their vision on how to do certain things, how to shape certain elements is different. And then when having an open discussion about this, it really brings new ideas to light. And I think that is probably one of the strengths that an international community can bring.
Fantastic. Tomas, we're really grateful for your time. I know you got to get back to the graduation grind there, buddy. All the best to you.
Thank you.
We'll be watching from afar from here, but closer in as we get. You've done a great job sharing your experience with us today. So thank you very much, Tomas. Really do appreciate it. Next up on the agenda is one of the faculty members from Fontys. Case has nearly 15 years with Fontys. He serves as the program leader for the Center of Expertise in High-Tech Systems and Materials. He's an advocate of students working in business situations and internships and that sort of thing, collaborations, to address realistic research questions and exchanges the exchanges of academic knowledge with business are very important to CASE, as I think we're going to see and hear, benefiting both the students and the schools and the businesses. In recent years, CASE has built the HTSM program into a vital link between the academic research and knowledge sharing. So CASE, if you're ready, then please take it away.
Thank you. So, as already was said, my name is Kees Adriaante. I'm responsible for the Center of Expertise High-Tech Systems and Materials. Excuse me, it's a bit complicated name, but I'll try to explain what we are doing. In brief, you can say that we connect students, and we connect lecturers, researchers with companies and other external organizations to organize the applied research. I prepared also a presentation, which I will share with you.
Yeah, we're seeing it. Good, excellent.
Okay. Thanks. So the name is the Center of Expertise HTSM, and when you want to get in contact with me, that's my email address, but at the end I will show you once again. Here, that's an image that I share almost every day and sometimes a few times a day, because it will show you a lot. What we try to do is, here at the right, you have education. That's for students, that's for lecturers, researchers. And when they have a good idea that they want to do some practice-oriented research, then they need also to do it in cooperation with companies. So the Center of Expertise, we have a very extended database of companies and contact persons. So we get in contact with the students and the researchers. So in the center, because it's also the center of the work we do, that's the practice-oriented research. Then we will make a team in a private-public cooperation. There we are doing the practical research. I will give you at the end some examples for that. Mostly we do it in batches of, let's say, 6 months. And during this 6 months, one or more, sometimes a team of students, they are working together with some staff members of company, with a lecturer, and they are working on a good idea to make the research. And at the end, after 6 months, then the results of the research will be presented to the education, so to our managers of the educational courses. And we will tell them there's new knowledge which you can use for your curriculum, for your new courses. But it also is interesting not only for the companies where we are cooperating with, but it's also important for other companies. So what we also are doing, we organizing events. One of the most known events is called Ask All Sort of Questions. So with all sort of questions, you can come to the event, and then you will meet the expertise of the students and the researchers of Fontys. And here you have some research groups. They will come up as stars, like, for example, artificial intelligence and big data, but also mechatronics, robotics, and high-tech embedded software, serious game design, etc. So in total, more or less 17 research groups we work together with. So when there are students of these groups and they want to join, with a company, then we look to the company and make a project team for them. Now I will show you some examples of the research we are doing. At the top left, you will see a picture of a movie from Charlie Chaplin that's called Modern Times. Then the workers are working besides each other. But nowadays, it's not only people who are working on assembly line, but you can also use a robot. Thomas showed already the robot which you're seeing at the top. So my colleague Pablo Negrete, he will show you it looks like a person, but you can stand beside this person with this collaborative robot. And so you do not need 4 of those people, like in the movie of Charlie Chaplin, but you can do it with only 2 people and 2 robots, for example. At the bottom left, you see an example of students who are working on a bin picking research. So a vision system, it will pick the products you need from the assembly line. And they are doing research with a new vision system, and they try to make this vision system in the way that the companies can help them. At the top, at the right, you will see an example of a mobile robot in the agro world. It can help you as a weeding mobile robot. So when there is weeds, for example, in a field of maize, it's not necessary to do it all by hands or to use chemical products, but you can use this mobile robot. Then it will use also the laser to brand the weed. And at the other example, that's a group of students who are working on the safety of robots. They used a Kinect camera, and that Kinect camera is coming from the game industry, and that can see in 3D. And that Kinect camera is used in a way that when a person comes at a distance of less than 2 meters, it will stop immediately the robot. So it's not there's no danger anymore for people being near the robot. Here's some. No, it's a bit. Yeah, that's the next one. There you see at the left, it's an example of our Minister of Economy. He was visiting us, our stand at the Hannover Messe, and one of my colleagues, that's a researcher and a student, they explained to the Minister of Economics how that robot is working, doing also the bin picking work. And it's also a very easy to program robot. At the top right, you will see a group of students who made a product for a company, which is also here in our region, near Eindhoven. It's called Van der Lande. And they will make a lot of handling systems for airports. And they've made one of the spare parts, one of the smaller parts, using in those handling systems. And at the bottom, you see it was one of the first groups who were participating in the first robot challenge in the United States of America. And that robot that you see here can launch what we call the skippy ball. So with using that skippy ball and launching it at, let's say, exactly 3 meters and 25 centimeters, you can win the prize. And yeah, at the end, we had very good results with those challenges. So that are some examples of groups of students. And what's happening a lot of times is when those students are working in this applied research, they will also get good ideas for new startups. And they want to make the products by themselves. But to make the products, they need the equipment. So the equipment, that's the equipment which is afforded by the MakersPlayce, which was explained by Thomas. So the Center of Expertise, we stimulate applied research in the public-private cooperation. During these research, new startups will appear, and the students, they want to start the startup, but the startups, they need the MakersPlayce to make the prototypes, and I've shown you some examples. So when you want to cooperate with our Center of Expertise, with a very broad network of companies, here's my name and my email address once again. Thank you.
Case, terrific. That's really wonderful. And you know, tell us a little bit, Case, about you know, that you've been with Fontys for 14 years. You've seen changes in that organization. tell us a little bit about how the energy might have been changing over the last couple of years, especially, you know, with the MakersPlayce, and, you know, how so much is changing. Just give us a perspective in the last 4 or 5 years of what that change means to you and your colleagues.
Yeah, what's very interesting to see, that is the energy that the students have, because in the past they've got the work they had to do. That's what they invented. It's just here within the building, but the students, they are much more motivated to do the research when they are working on a real question, and the company will be happy when they will get an answer. So it's much more stimulating for the students than only working in an imaginable way. So that's the most important change that I've seen. And what's also interesting is that the students, let's say 5, 6 years ago, when they want to enter into a lab, then there always was a lab worker who said, "Oh, be careful. When you want to make something, it's me who will make it." But now that whole situation is changed, and the student, he will make the things by himself. And the staff members will help the students. So that are the 2 most important changes that I've seen.
Yeah. Well, again, Kees, thank you so much. You mean the head and the hands, right? And the soul. We hear a whole lot about soul from you folks at Fontys and your colleagues. So thanks again, Kees. Really do appreciate it. Next up on our program is another Fontys faculty member, another person I've had the great good fortune to collaborate with and hear more from over the last couple of months. I've learned an awful lot from my friend Victor. You know, we're rolling through the day here, Victor, and you know, the piece that you're going to share with us about entrepreneurship, I know is near and dear to your heart. So we're really looking forward to your presentation. So Victor has, you know, he's researched in the area of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship competencies, and with a focus on student outcomes and helping gain a better understanding of really entrepreneurial makers and making entrepreneurs. Is that pretty much a good sum up there for you, Victor?
Yeah, I think that's even that good a sum up. That's all of my story. So thank you for the inspirational introduction. I can tell something.
Scratchy, Victor. I don't know if you're aware, but the audio is a little bit scratchy.
Okay, wait. I'll try.
Without the ears.
That's much better. Much better.
So maybe this is better. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
Well, I will share my presentation with you, and I've seen a lot of technological talent within this meeting. Yeah, maybe a little bit disappointed. I'm not a technician. I don't understand a lot of technique, but I'm more of a talent engineer. So on that perspective, I am an engineer, but more concerned with the human side of it. Working for the Fontys Center of Entrepreneurship. We work for the whole of Fontys, but also outside in international projects. And I will tell you something about the entrepreneurship competencies we work with and some research results we have found out. Just for a small introduction, within Fontys we have 46,000 students, and a lot of them are entrepreneurial interested. So starting an entrepreneurship or thinking about it, it's over 30%. So that's a lot, and that's the thing we found out in the past years. It's increasing. The interest in entrepreneurship is growing. And students would like to control their own success and their own future. So if you look at the goal at the Center for Entrepreneurship, it's to create an optimal climate for those student entrepreneurs to grow and excel. And we have quite some services for that, but it mainly comes down to scouting, screening, and facilitating student entrepreneurship, with 2 main roads to go: building an enterprise or building entrepreneurial behavior. So those are the 2 main streets we walk in, and they are connected to each other. And this is mainly interesting in the technology world because we found out in our region, it's called the Brainport region, and we would like to call ourselves that. We have a lot of technology and innovation, but there's a tech trap, as I call it. And when working with very good technological students, they would like to engineer, re-engineer, redesign until it's finished, but it's almost never finished. So what we would like to do, and that's also touching the vision of the Make Impact Consortium, is to speed up that process, to get faster to a minimum viable product, so students can validate in the market or with possible customers if the developments they do and the innovations, if they are in the right way, or if they should adjust things. And the sooner you find out what to adjust, the better your innovations suit the market. So especially in technology regions, this is important. Entrepreneurial competences, we think they are a precondition for innovation. Oh, we're not going back. So the importance is to connect to practice. We call it also business readiness, to know what's in the real world, what's going on. So connecting students to the real world, also as Kees mentioned, is very important to us.
Victor,
Mainly
I should have checked in, Victor. We're not seeing your screen.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No problem. I'll try and reconnect it again. And otherwise, I will just tell it.
Yeah, it's very engaging conversation. But I wanted to make sure that you were aware, and I honestly I just gapped on it that we weren't seeing slides. I'm sorry about that. There we go. It's on the board. There we go. Thanks so much.
So the importance of business ready and all the things I mentioned, they were in the slides, but now you saw my talking head. When you know about startups, most startups within the Netherlands fail within the first 2 years, and that's mainly because of not being close to the market, knowing the situation, what innovations have to look like, what appeals to potential customers. So it requires development of some competencies to connect to that, and that takes a lot of time and sweat, blood, sweat, and tears, and it's not easy. So we had a real program on developing those competencies, and it gives a lifetime advantage. We have found it out at our students who work with us for the past years, over 2,000 students, a lot of technical students. They get a jump ahead by developing their competencies. And also, we tell our students they not only learn more, but also they earn more. And also money is talking a little bit on that side. So that's also interesting. So with the connection to the Make Impact, we connected it to EntreComp. And that stands for the Entrepreneurship Competence Framework. It's something the European Commission has developed in 2016. They have presented that framework, and we've taken that to make learning programs and help students develop themselves. So it's about validation of concepts. We call it also get out of the building. So our Center for Entrepreneurship is not placed within the Fontys educational building, but outside in a region with a lot of entrepreneurs around us. And it's about build, measure, learn, and do that cycle again and again to speed up the process of innovation and technology development. So getting sooner to minimum viable products or prototyping is very important to get in touch with the market or other students or other companies. And as I mentioned, developing competencies is very, very difficult. So that takes some training, it takes some energy from the students, but it pays off. And mainly looking at the importance, the European Commission identified entrepreneurship as one of the competences necessary for a knowledge-based society. So for innovation, it's very important to speed up. We have adapted the program, we have redeveloped it, and we've made it cross-border compatible. So we are also trying it out now in international programs, for instance, Germany and Belgium. And over 2,000 learners worked with the competence development, and they were very enthusiastic. The focus on developing themselves, it's terrific. They score it at 8.7 out of 10, and they say it's highly distinctive, it's motivational to work on yourself, and you see the success speeding up. And what we found out also, personal development, innovation, and enterprise development, they really go hand in hand. Often we say it's better to have a bad innovation and a good entrepreneurial set of competencies than a very good innovation and a bad entrepreneur behind it, because he cannot convince other people to invest or to further develop things. And we did some research also. We started that last year. So mainly all of our students, we have sent them out in the field to talk with entrepreneurs, to ask them about the necessary skills for successful entrepreneurship, and also the necessary competences for the employees of the entrepreneurs. We did that together with the Erasmus University of Rotterdam, a very famous university also in entrepreneurship. And we got some quite interesting outcomes from that. We had 200 entrepreneurs being interviewed on the competencies of the EntreComp framework, and asking them which are the most important ones. Well, you cannot, I think it's too small to see, so I've made some highlights. Most important competencies for entrepreneurs: spotting opportunities, being creative, innovative thinking, motivational, perseverance, vision, working with others. So those are the top 5. And what we saw, they are all behavioral competencies. So it's not understanding finance, understanding legal issues or IP issues. It's all on behavior. So for us, it's a motivation to go on with the development of competence programming for students. And that's also something we would like to take into the consortium. Because also being research partners, for instance, we can grow results around Europe, so we can learn and we can improve our programs to even speed up more the technical innovations within our country or outside those countries. So that might be a nice proposal. Also on the competence development itself, we got a lot of experience. So I would like to invite you to get in touch with us and we can discuss this further. So for my side, making impact, it's really a voice of discovery. It's not always easy. You fall down, you get up, and you have to get the experience outside to know what's important and what not. And that takes entrepreneurial competencies. So that's on my side.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you so much. You know, your point about build, measure, learn. It reminds me of the axiom over here is, you know, ready, fire, aim kind of thing. You know, and get out of the building. Those are the. And I really enjoyed your point about engineer on the human side. It seems to me that so many of our colleagues around this table are probably, in my mind, designers. You know, whether they're engineers or whether they're thinking in terms of, you know, more applied research on your side. Designers at the core. Victor, tell me a little bit more about what you would like to do, how you see the consortium working with the consortium going forward in terms of maybe developing content, developing curricula, courses, that kind of thing. But I know that's an interest of yours. I've heard you talk about that a little bit. How do you see that evolving for yourself and for the wider consortium?
Well, knowing that the framework we work with is a European framework, so it's cross-cultural, cross-border, ready to use, in fact, or quite on short-term ready to use. So by joining hands and using it, one of the main targets of the European Commission was having one voice in competence development. So using the same wording, sharing experience on how to develop some competencies best. So also developing programs for that, and then joining forces worldwide. We can even speed up more, because in the world of competence development, there are hundreds of systems, hundreds of different sets of competences, but they all, if you take some abstracts, it's all about the same. So using that same language and strengthening each other, we can helping develop our universities and our students to grow faster and to make innovations with more impact, because the sooner you find out you really reach the impact or not, the sooner you can get into the successful further development of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And as you and I and Ella and Marty and John have spoken, you know, we see some really wonderful opportunities for collaborative research across the different schools. You know, there's research on entrepreneurship going on in Australia, we know, and in other parts of the world that you know, bringing together those minds, those ideas, the essence of that work really elevates all of the schools, and we are so looking forward to your contributions both in the research and the organization around that kind of curricula and co-curricular development. One last thing I'm going to ask you, Victor, is as we're rolling through the day here, we're going to be talking to entrepreneurs out in the ecosystem around the school, and just a couple of brief points about how Fontys spreads its influence into the community around, and more specifically your interaction perhaps with some of the closer in entrepreneurs that you see.
Well, connecting the students to the real life entrepreneurs, you learn from their mistakes, and I think some of the speakers before me mentioned it. Learning from someone else's mistakes speeds up also, and mainly that connection. And we send our students to the entrepreneurs to interview them. They learn how to discuss. Entrepreneurs love to share. So they're a very easy group to work with. So anything you ask the entrepreneurs, they almost say yes, because they would love to interact with the young talents. So even if it's on interviewing or doing challenges for the entrepreneurs, or helping them improve their business model for the existing entrepreneurs, it are all opportunities to connect and to spread your influence around yourself. I don't know if it's an answer to your question.
You know, you nailed it, Victor. You know, and I've seen the richness myself, the stories that you've told, Ella, and what I've seen, you know, close in with the Fontys experience, and certainly with the other schools around the world. We recognize that the ecosystems emanate out through really energetic and well-focused makerspaces and organizations like you're talking about, the school, Fontys. So yeah, these are all learnings that we're going to share, and we have shared around the consortium so far, and we look forward to sharing with more members. Thanks again, Victor. Speaking of entrepreneurs, you know, here sort of next up on the agenda, Rick, if you can give me a heads up that Yella is on board with us. Yeah. You're muted, Rick. Yeah. Okay. There's Yella. Great. Terrific. I appreciate it. I just didn't see him on the screen there. And Yella, you are muted right now. So so he's an advisor for innovative subject matter experts and startups at Brainport Development and a place called The Gate, which I think we'll hear a little bit more about. Maybe not. I'm anticipating though. They've shared the goal of improving the quality and the quantity of innovative SMEs and high-tech startups. Yella, we're really interested to hear from you today and how you and your friends, your network connect into Fontys and the ecosystem around. So Yella, please just take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me over. As I am from Brainport Development, the local development agency, and I am indeed a business developer for high-tech startups in this region. We, however, also created the Gate with a few partners, among them Fontys, of course. We were closely together with Victor as well on this. I'm going to start up my presentation. Just give me a heads up if you don't see it. don't see it.
I'll watch for it for you. There is that delay with Microsoft Teams, so we have to be patient. Take a couple of breaths, grab another coffee. There we come. It's coming. There we go. The Gate. There we go. Super. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to skip the part of Brainport because you can Google a lot about it. Just do it because it's a really interesting region. I would say I would go into it a little bit later. But first, I would like to talk about the Gate. the problem within this region is there's all kinds of facilities for startups, high-tech startups, entrepreneurial students, and entrepreneurs in this region, but it's quite fragmented. If you are from Fontys or Summa or the Technical University of Eindhoven, or not even in a university or anymore, there's a lot of help, but it's all quite fragmented. So together with these parties, the TU Eindhoven, Brainport Development, our own organization, the BOM, it's a funding agency of the province, Fontys and Summa, we started the Gate as a one-point access, a one-stop hub to trying to help out all high-tech startups in this region to increase the number of startups as well as increasing the potential success rate of those startups. Because it actually takes a lot of steps to have a successful takeoff. What you guys doing at Fontys and Technical University of educating people is very good. And in my time, there wasn't that much interest in entrepreneurial skills or entrepreneurial competences. However, nowadays there is, and to take off after that, it takes another takes it to another level, I think. So there's the validation of the business idea, building the business plan, which can be quite a big job for people with a technical background, financing, and eventually, hopefully, scaling up. It takes time and it takes a lot of people to help also as well, and that's mainly because it's high tech, and high tech takes a lot more time and energy than a basic software company does. So we started the Gate. We have a physical location as well, although due to COVID, unfortunately, I haven't been there since the start of the Gate. I want to tell you a little bit about the ecosystem. These logos on the right are solely an indication of the parties which are active in our region. There's a lot more, but they have all a focus on startups as well. But how do you know where to go to as a student or as a beginning startup? We're trying to help you out with the Gate. We can help you ourselves, but there's also a lot of competences in our region we can send you and guide you to. For example, Lumo Labs or Blatter Legal. Lumo Labs is really specialized in artificial intelligence and blockchain. High-Tech Excel is a deep tech, a real deep tech incubator, for example. So there's a lot of initiatives in this area. So why the focus on high tech? I think that started out with all the investments being made in this area and the potential ecosystem it has. Because if you look into the private R&D investments, we are double the size of Amsterdam and Utrecht. So even though we're a lot smaller comparing to them, based on the R&D expenditure, we are bigger. So I'm a big fan, to be honest, of this slide, because if you look back in time, we see that a lot of what's happening in this area is linked to Philips. You probably know Philips from your toothbrush or whatever. Nowadays, it's more of a medtech company. But a lot of these companies in this region originate from Philips back 20, 30 years ago. But after they moved away from this area and moved their headquarters to Amsterdam, and then of course they had another obligation to their shareholders as well, there was a gap in the ecosystem for startups, I think, to fill. But at that time, Philips played a really important role. It was like an all-in-one institute, a research institute. They had contacts with the market, the customers. They were investing in their own companies as well. If you look, for example, to ASML, that's now, I think, 3 or 4 times bigger than Philips is. So I don't know if it was a good thing to put that away, but I think that shows that there's a really fruitful ground to grow startups around here. But there was a gap. We're trying to fill in that gap with all these partners in the last couple of years, and I think that was quite successful. You can see a lot of startups which are shown here, which are focusing mainly on high tech and semiconductor industry, medtech industry, stuff like that. Let me see if I had an example of I think which is a perfect example, which is related to Fontys as well, because Tech2B is a combination of a summer college alumni and Fontys alumni. They had their own small company with water cutter and milling, basically high precision, low volume kind of company, which are a lot of around in this area, and quite similar to the MakersPlayce, which is Fontys, all these kinds of tools they had. And they were really frustrated about the chain and the way of communicating and inefficiencies in that chain with the clients, but also basically from all the top to third or fourth tier customers. So together they began Tech2B. Tech2B. And how they come to us, VDL, a big company, was interested, but they thought they should be adopted by the whole ecosystem, and there was a lot of money trying to involve to get this off the ground. So they were actually sent it to us, and we're trying to help them. We help them with funding, we help them with the right connections in the industry. But some stuff we do, for example, is we organize expert panels, and because we're an independent organization, we can invite whoever we think is relevant to them, and we do that to get quality feedback on the business plan, on their basically on their whole business, but also to get that buy-in from that industry. So for this case, we actually had the CEO of NTS Group, we had VDL, we had Philips on the table to get that buy-in and the quality feedback. They started 2 years ago. They're already expanding. If you're looking to the website of Tech2B, expanding to England, because there's a likewise steel industry which can benefit from their system, and there's a lot of potential to even grow in that. I think this is a good example of what kind of startups we can help out as a community, as an ecosystem as a whole, because of the companies which are here, because of the ecosystem of the TU Eindhoven, Fontys, etc. And I think that starts, and I'm glad that I joined like 45 minutes ago, and I started MakersPlayce, and I'm really glad to see stuff like that happening at Fontys, because I think the challenge-based learning and the things you do over there, they are the start of being an entrepreneur. And I was at Fontys, I think 16 years ago, something like that. At that time, it wasn't the case to have that kind of opportunities, and I really missed that at the time, and I'm really glad that now the layer of entrepreneurship is being made at Fontys. So after that, you're going to all kinds of other things like the formation, validation, and incubation. We can help out the Fontys students, but also the technical university students and anybody who lives in this region. So basically what we're trying to do is move to the market, increase the success rate of startups, and do that faster from idea to successful entrepreneur, and that with a focus on high tech. And we're trying to be the one-stop hub with all the ties to all the parties in the ecosystem. So that's basically it, what I wanted to say. I hope I was in time, because I tried to make it short, because you have a lot of presentations, I believe.
Yeah, no, Jelle, this is really high value. We're really grateful for your time. You know, one quick thing, the question I have right now for you, and you know, I know in Europe there's a lot of sharing that goes on, and so your connection to the public sector, you know, there's certainly a difference between what's going on in the Netherlands and around you than there might be in some other countries. But correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, there are analogies to what you're doing, and you have a network that reaches out across Europe. You're learning from each other in the kind of work that you do. Is that not right?
We do have connections within Europe as well, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Brainport Development was one of the first triple helix kind of organizations. So we were founded 25 years ago, I would say, something like that. And in our board there's the municipalities, SMEs, as well as knowledge institutions. So we're kind of a weird organization, I always say. But due to that foundation, we tend to work closely together with all kinds of parties in this ecosystem, because we're independent of that, and we always look across borders as well to see if we can learn anything from what's happening outside of the Netherlands, or even outside of Brainport.
Yeah, and certainly, as I'm looking at it, Jelle, as I've spoken to Rick and Ella and Victor, certainly we see the analogies. We understand that there's learning that the other schools, the other organizations can extract from what you're doing, and in the context of the ecosystem around Fontys. We know that is transferable knowledge that the other schools and other countries will benefit from. So thank you, Jelle. Really appreciate your time with us today. And I know that there are some questions in the chat that maybe you can pick up on post the event, but we'll certainly do our best to curate that connecting. Thank you, Jelle. Thanks so much.
Okay, I will follow up on the questions. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we're running into a break right now. We've got another video to share with you.
Hi, I am Brian van Am.
Hi, I'm Kevin van der Vleuten.
Hi, I'm Rens Monmans.
Hi, and my name is Sven van Stein. And together we are 4 guys from a small town called Best in the Netherlands. And we are aspiring engineers of the future. We have known each other since high school and all decided to study mechatronics engineering at the University of Applied Sciences of Fontys in Eindhoven.
This is not the first plague, nor the last. But this time, we have Bobble.
I have the great pleasure of having this relatively new role with MIT and the Make Impact Consortium. This has been this is like a startup within a startup. Gene as version 1.0 of something that's going down the tracks really fast. And I have to say, and I say this almost every day to people I connect with, I love my job. To be working with these great people with these wonderful ideas and this extraordinary reach in nationally, internationally, this is really quite an extraordinary opportunity for me at this point in my career. So I am the program manager, the senior program manager at that for the Make Impact Consortium, and my roles, responsibilities relate an awful lot to you folks around this virtual table. I would be a primary contact with you and for you as you work with the Make Impact Consortium. My career dates back several years into higher education. I was a professor and started a program, launched an online master's program, and since then I've been very involved in entrepreneurship, innovation, and design. And making is a little bit new to my portfolio, and I'm really quite enjoying that aspect of what I do. I work with nutty, bright, intelligent people doing all kinds of awesome work every day. Marty calls his team, the Project Manus team that oversees Make Impact, Team Awesome, and it's real. It's real every day. The people I interact with at MIT, and now more broadly with my work with the consortium, with Rick, with Ella, with Victor, with Case, and the rest of the folks at Fontys and the other schools. You don't want to hear me talk too much, and we are running a bit behind. I want to make Rick. Can you confirm that we're seeing my presentation?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, super. So we want to talk a little bit about what you saw a little bit already, which is the Make Impact Omni Design Challenge that took place in February, March of this year. And you're not going to hear too much. I'm going to reiterate a couple of the things here, but you're going to hear from the students themselves as we roll a wrap-up video. You've heard this already. I think there were 215 students that started in the competition back in February. That was comprised of 60 teams in 7 countries and 5 continents. I had the good pleasure of overseeing the wrap-up for the competition, where we had the finalist representatives, including a couple of teams from Fontys, and you'll see representation in the video that's going to be coming up. This work involves let's do this. Let's roll the video if you're ready. Somebody give me a heads up, and we'll look at the video, and then we'll come out of the video and talk a little bit more. I think it's a nice, concise message around the challenge, the Make Impact Challenge that just finished up in March of this year. Can we roll the video, please?
Yep, I can roll it here from Connor.
Hang on one second.
My name is Diego Duarte. I'm majoring in CPA at Francisco Marroquin University, and I'm on my 3rd year. One of the things I found meaningful and useful about this Make Impact Challenge is the ability that it gave me to work with people from different disciplines. For example, in our team, we had an economist who is Leo, an architect, Lorena, a product designer, Victor, and an auditor like myself. So what I take about that is the chance of getting to know each other and combining our knowledges and strengths to transforming into a reliable product.
Hello, my name is Yara Korki. I am a student from Bahçeşehir University in Istanbul, Turkey. I am studying biomedical engineering and mechatronics engineering. Our project was UV light disinfectors that are just situated inside in the elevators of the hotels. It's a challenge where it wasn't just some instruction given to us and we just have to act upon it. No, it was a challenge where they actually gave us some introductory courses. They gave us some actual very useful information and courses that we can actually use in the project or in our life.
So my name is Marnix Matlener. I'm also from the Netherlands, and I go to school at Fontys University in Eindhoven. It's in the south of the Netherlands. My specialization is mechatronics. The most fun and most challenging aspect of the project for me was really combined, because designing a solution for something in a small time frame, it was really challenging, but also really fun.
It was a really great experience. I mean, it was the first time that we actually looked for solutions for a problem, real life problem during the pandemic. We put together all the information that we've got from the university. We've been waiting to do such a project that actually makes us excited about designing and finding solutions. So it was a really, really good way to put everything that we have been passionate about into action. Thank you for the great experience. Thank you for the great education, and thank you for the great mentoring.
So we heard some messages again from the students. I'm getting a really funny video thing. I just want to make sure that you're seeing my screen right now. Yeah.
You're good, Gene. Keep going. Buddy.
Thank you. All right. So the messages that you heard from the schools, from the students in the schools, they help us. I'm sorry, it's a really distracting issue going on with my video screen right now. The wider context of the support around the challenge. This was the second design challenge that Make Impact has delivered. And, this involves a team. The old expression, it takes a village. Well, there were 50 plus mentors involved in the work with all of those students, 100 plus faculty and staff members, hundreds of family and friends that were tuning in and watching as their students, as their sons, their daughters, their nieces, their nephews, their grandchildren were helping, deliver these great design solutions. And that adds up to thousands and thousands of impressions. And when I talk about impressions, I think for a lot of people on this call, they'll understand those are social media impressions. Those are impressions that we know the marketing and communications folks around the world are watching all the time. But we think even more highly about the direct impressions, the impressions that we're making with the faculty, with the other students, with the stakeholders in the different schools. When the students from Jordan or the students from Eindhoven, the students from Derby are connecting and making impact, that a lot of people are hearing those messages. And we know that student success leads to institutional success. We know that when Fontys puts its videos on LinkedIn, many hundreds, thousands of professionals around the world are looking at that. And we know that adds value to everything that Ella is doing and Case is doing and Victor and the rest of their colleagues at Fontys. If you don't have student success, you don't have a very good story to tell with institutional success. I don't need to tell you that. In fact, the students were talking themselves of what success means to them. It's not about the numbers. It's not about the impressions. It's about it. This is Corky talking, saying it makes us excited about designing and finding solutions. A really, she said, really good way of putting everything that we're passionate about into action. That was Corky. She was just brilliant as we were recording the videos with her as well, and Duarte and the other students we connected with after the challenge, telling us that working with students of different backgrounds and disciplines, this was a rich situation for Duarte and his team. They happened to finish in the running. They won a prize, but we were hearing these same kinds of things from students who didn't finish in a prize. They were in the competition and they stuck through the competition. But these same kinds of spirit, the same kind of energy and passion was being communicated. They were getting to know each other. They were aligning their knowledge and thoughts their multidisciplinary ideas, transforming them into a reliable product. Just brilliant, just brilliant. We love to hear those kinds of messages. And again, from the students, this is not us making anything up. We don't need to make it up. The students are the ones who are validating. And student success, when that gets amplified, that leads to business partner success. In the Omni Design Challenge, it was the Omni Hotels, MATLAB, and other sponsors that were there. In the earlier challenge, there was another group of sponsors. They know that when they align with Make Impact and when they align with the consortium member schools, that they're getting an immense value. They're getting value from things like recruiting students into their internship programs, and they're also getting good seed ideas. You know, does Omni Hotel turn that into a solution for them in their lobby? Yeah, they just might. You know, that first challenge winner, I think Marty can talk a little bit more about it. The first challenge winner, that product was rolling into development. This is the kind of energy. It's not just happening on a campus, it's happening globally. It's happening in the interactions that we have every day with all of the Make Impact schools, and it's happening between students. This is what we're enabling to a very large extent. You know, the impressions to me, they make impact. How the schools leverage that impact is something that I'm watching very closely, and I'm doing my best and will continue to do my best to help the individual schools make impact through the work that their students are doing. It's back to the students, as Ella said, it's back to the students, as Marty said. And when you hear the students talking in those videos, boy, I mean, I get excited. And Marty, you know, a couple of quick comments about the Omni Challenge, if you would, or any aspects of the challenge would be helpful.
You know, earlier I said that, you know, that final was like magic, and I really meant it, right? I mean, just watching the students being able to express all the things that they've done, seeing them have a great time, knowing that, you know, this wasn't like, you know, the end of the journey for them. At the end of this competition, yes, they had competed, maybe they won a prize, but they, in and of themselves, really understood that they had picked up things that they could take from that competition and go do something with it.
Exactly, yes.
That,
yeah.
you know, it doesn't so much matter to us that they go out and they start a company right away, et cetera. That's not the measure of success.
Nope.
The measure of success is, have we started them on the path to getting them involved in this sort of thing, and they can continue on that.
And we see that validated in the conversations we have with Victor, we have with Ella. We see in the classroom, certainly close in at MIT, and we know that the other schools around the world are seeing the exact same thing. And when they're seeing things differently, that's the collaboration point, that's the learning, that's the inflection point that gets shared around the consortium for validation, for reinterpretation, for escalation and amplification. Those things are happening every day. That's an exciting part of my job. I know, Marty, that's the vision and the spirit that you and Ella and the others were talking about as they were founding. Yeah. So I think part of what's important right now to talk about it, and this is a preamble to the breakout rooms, by the way, and I'm just going to give you one last chance or another chance to input your questions into the chat. Marty and Jonathan Hunt and myself will be hosting breakouts at the end of this segment of the presentation, and we'd really like to hear your comments and questions. So you know, feel free to drop those in the chat, and we're going to do our best to collect and address those questions. So as we're sitting around the table here with our new friends introduced by Ella and in other ways, we want to give you a really good idea of where the consortium is right now. We're coming out of COVID times. We are adapting. We are changing. We're being entrepreneurial while being entrepreneurial. This is back to Victor and Kays and the other folks. We want to give you a good idea of what the next year and a half, 3 years actually even look like. So coming up, you know, in the fall of this year, in October, we're going to run a boot camp. Coming up in November, we're going to do another challenge. We're researching the theme of this challenge, and there's different ways that we can approach a boot camp. But certainly, this is the time when I'm communicating with my consortium counterparts, and we're deciding on a thing like a theme for a challenge. A couple of the ideas we've been thinking about with a theme for the challenge is sustainability. You know, we're talking in larger terms about the research that's going on in the other schools that we will turn into themes. And once we get, that feedback, that collaborative feedback, we'll zero in on a theme, and then we're going to really auger in and find that corporate sponsorship, find those corporate partners, and likely, in this case, the public sector partners that can help students do the learning, focus in on real life design challenges that will make an impact. The additional opportunities in 2021 include mini boot camps, webinars, local and regional competitions. These are all things that are part of the consortium working right now, and things that I'm really eager to focus in on and amplify and all. Your innovative, impactful ideas here. Everybody around the table who's looking in and considering coming on board with us in the consortium, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the next couple of weeks talking to you folks. I'm going to be looking at the questions that you've been posing. I'm going to look at your schools and the environments there, and I'm going to be really keen on hearing from you where you'd like to take things as you come on board with the consortium. The roadmap into the next couple of years looks like this. So 4 boot camps, each year. So we're talking about 12 boot camps. We're talking about 3 challenges in each of the years. So we're talking about 9 challenges over the next few years. Additional programming that we're looking at include a really nice, rich list like this. Boot camps, global travel. We've heard time and again about staff and faculty being really keen to visit the MIT campus and the other campuses to extract that learning in person, and that's going to happen. The competitions, like the challenges, we're going to do more of. Smaller scale competitions, a lot of collaboration, a lot of networking, and please, before I forget, before we go very much further, look me up in LinkedIn and let's do some networking closer in real fast. So community building, webinars, research, video. Marty, jump in here on this list a little bit for me, would you please? We're talking about this programming over 3 years. This is a long list, but we also know it's not comprehensive, and we know that as we talk to the other consortium members, this kind of work changes. It's dynamic. It's all kinds of fun figuring it out too. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think also, a key thing for everybody to know is that it's adaptable. One of the things that I've learned in all the years at MIT that I've been working on this, and it's been my job to travel the world to learn how people are trying to address these kinds of problems, is that there's no one size fits all. All right. The boot camps that we hold, we teach you the basics, but then after the boot camps, you're not left on your own, right? We have these sorts of things available on a schedule for people to participate in, but it's our job, we feel, to make sure that we make the connections between you and other people, so that when you have questions, if you need a little bit of consulting help from somebody, if you're having an issue in with your leadership and funding or something like that, we're there to help. All right. This isn't an activity, it's not a social activity where we all just get together at meetings and pat each other on the back, right? We're here really to make impact. And we know that the right way to do that, we just learned this the hard way through many years of doing this. The right way to do that is to give people the knowledge that they can then use to figure out what they have to do for their campus, and then to be there for them while they're going through it and help them along. Right. So,
and that co-learning, so very important, and richness of that.
Exactly. What you have here, this is just a smattering of the things that are available, right? There's all the networking connections with your peers, et cetera, that are going to help you do a lot better job on your campus with respect to innovation and entrepreneurship. And like I said before, it's helping us as well.
Right. And eventually, Marty, my goal today, and certainly our colleagues at Fontys and all, a primary goal is this is about really, it truly is, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, being entrepreneurial, about being an entrepreneur. When it comes down to it, it's the what's in it for me question. It's about the value that we are delivering as a consortium. Sure, there's a whole lot about MIT here. You see that, and it's in the papers and it's all over. The richness on that campus and the richness of the different programs and the symposia, so forth. We are so very, very blessed. I'm going to say it, blessed by that co-learning, that co-collaboration. But ultimately, it does come down to it's a what's in it for me, and it's a value exchange. Marty, you pulled this together, and when we talk about the cost of doing business, the cost of consortium membership, you just made this very, very explicit for me, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about this.
Sure. Couple examples here. MIT is not for profit. We're not in this to make money. This really is a labor of love, where we're just trying to make sure that we can get everybody together to help each other. And of course, there's a cost associated with that. I know you all have MakersPlayces, right? And there are machines that you buy. For example, there's a mill shown here on the screen. You already have these, right? And people buy these all the time. They don't think anything about paying $20, $30, $60, $100,000 to buy a piece of equipment like this. And when you really think about it, that piece of equipment sits in your MakersPlayce. It's not used all the time, all right? A few people get access to it every week. And over the course of maybe 3 to 10 years, right, it's going to have some impact on a few projects here and there, all right? People don't think twice about investing that sort of money to get a piece of equipment that students can get access to every once in a while, right? You look at, for example, a laser cutter, get high-end laser cutter that's typically used in a MakersPlayce. It's the same story, right? In perspective, people tend to look at these machines like they are what makes innovation happen. Like they make the MakersPlayces happen. And like we've already tried to explain, it's not the machines that do it, right? It's the ability to activate your students. It's the ability to provide programming for your students to get engaged. The ability to learn what's the right way to run these spaces. How do you fund them? How do you prepare the students to be engaged in these spaces, teaching and mentoring other students? That's stuff that at MIT we've spent, and I'll be honest with you, well over $1 million trying to learn how to solve those problems. And there's no need for other people to have to struggle through that and spend that kind of money, right? So there's real value in being able to learn how to do all of these things, to be able to take advantage from what we've learned, and then also all the other schools that we've worked with and that we've learned from them to be able to solve problems.
And
really group effort.
There's so much learning that has gone on in the last 3 years in terms of administrative functionings, and as you point out, Marty, the help with making the case, the help with the fundraising towards a consortium membership, those kinds of activities, and it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Marty, you and I have talked about the 4 pillars, or that Venn diagram, the people, the process, the content, the technology. We're wrapping our arms around all of that, and maybe it's something we can talk more about offline with the participants. But it really is an ecosystem that we're creating. There's a wonderful analogy. One of my friends in biomimicry talks about the ecotone. The ecotone is the place between 2 environments. And it's a place of ultimate richness. Think of a delta. Think about the Mississippi River in our example. That delta is so rich with diversity. I think about when I think about the best of our schools, the way MIT wants to go, the way MIT wants to support it. It's an ecotone. It's a place where there is this really awesome convergence of energy and resources, and that's what we're trying to do more of and to build through the consortium. So additional programming in the roadmap ahead, the 22, 23, 24. We do annual meetings with the consortium. We do quarterly meetings. The symposia, the publishing. These are the things that are very much offered and very much able. We're very much able to interact with you. To enable. Go ahead, Marty.
Can I interrupt for a second, because I'm seeing that we're kind of the planning is kind of getting messed up a bit.
Yeah.
Would it be an idea to go to the discussions so that the participants can also kind of interact a bit with us?
So let's do this first.
Value.
Let's do this first, Rick. I think a great way for us to transition to the breaks is to roll the video. Mohammed, I hope you're ready for that last video. Do I have to stop sharing to enable that?
No, I can fix that.
Okay. Thank you. Let's roll the video, then we'll roll into the breakouts, Rick. Thank you. Not hearing audio. We need audio. Mohammed, I think you're muted.
Let me check one more time.
Microsoft Teams. I'm telling you, Marty.
I know.
I met Mohammed, but Marty too. Yeah. Here we go. Thank you.
Oh, what is making? Yeah, that's a dangerous question. It's a good question. Everybody inherently is some form of a maker.
It's more like onomatopoeic almost. Like
Making for me is like the sort of thing that I did when I was 4 years old, and I can see myself doing like 50 years down the line. It comes so naturally, and there's so much possibility and so much continuous learning.
I love that I've been able to find a place where I can have this kind of side of me that loves solving logical puzzles, but also I have a very deep appreciation for art and culture and music making as well.
Everyone is new at some point, and there's no judgment in that, and everybody is always extremely helpful.
Anybody can take a room and throw machines in it and then expect people to come and build stuff, right? So the community was something that we've been missing for a while. The Met is meant to be the big community space for all of MIT. And anybody at MIT and any of the alumni can be part of that community. You get people mixing together, you end up with fantastic and amazing solutions. So the Met in total, the entirety of the building being a design hub, and then the makerspace where all these people can come together, that's going to be a hugely powerful thing.
Making at MIT really means getting your hands onto tools and materials that can help your future career, and it's being able to learn from other students.
Making to me means being able to take my ideas as a visual thinker and transform them into tangible and useful products that are beautiful as well.
It means that I have created something with my own hands. Making means that I can make a change in this world.
Hey, Ella, I see you're there with your, yeah, okay. Everybody good in Eindhoven this afternoon? Yeah, all good. Super. I'm thinking we're waiting. It's Mohammed, if you could check in if you're.
Everyone is back in this meeting now.
Everyone's back. Everyone's here. That's here. I don't see Marty here. So, John, you're muted. If everybody wants to come off mute, we can treat this as a more open conversation. Mohammed, everybody's here. That's what you've told. So Ella, in terms of what you've seen today, and in terms of think about where you were 4 or 5 years ago, and think about where our guests are today, and what would you say to our guests as we wrap up here today? Tell us the analogy.
Yeah, we've just been talking about it in the breakout room as well, because it is, well, it's all about also your colleagues that have to be interested. What we've been doing was we had a survey under our students, and we asked for our students, well, every year we do this kind of surveys to ask them what would you like to do to improve our educational program. And on the first place came, we would like to have a lab that we can work on also during the evenings. This was why Thomas was just telling that we went on to 10 o'clock at night. It's also because we have many international students at our university, and they all wanted to work on their own project. So we have the labs that we can use, well, like we've been talking before, that are surveyed by our teachers and so on. And right. But this is their own lab, they can work on their own project, and this is what they really wanted. So it is just, maybe it was kind of coincidence, but it all came together at the right time. So this is a real good timing, but we also like, well,
We're getting some audio difficulty here. I think Mohammed, if you could unmute the group, I think we'll take any questions.
Was Connor again. I unmuted everyone. Everyone can unmute.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
we're
the boy,
okay now.
okay, go ahead. Could you go ask your question, introduce yourself, and ask the question, please?
Yeah, no, I don't have a question. I just wanted to repeat what I said in the breakout rooms, that I just contacted the director of our MakersPlayce, which is called Design Lab, and her counterpart at Saxion, and they are both really enthusiastic to look into the possibilities of working together.
Yeah, terrific.
Because one of the things that they would like to do is to proceed and take further steps in making their results more tangible, because often it just stays with the design and a prototype, but not further.
Right.
And together you can do more like that. Yeah.
Right. We had a good conversation with Fabio talking to us about Spain in our breakout room, and we encouraged him to. Here's what's going to happen after this. We're running up against the hour, and I know everybody's busy today. Does anybody have any questions? Because I'm just going to sum up really quickly what will happen next. You'll hear from me personally. I'm going to be connecting with each person who joined us today and talk more about their needs, about their school, and about the possibilities of aligning with Make Impact. So that's going to happen in the next week or two. Any other questions from anybody? Robert, Joachim, anybody? Michael, unmute yourself. No, you're good. All right. Well. All right, failing any more questions? Look at that. We're at the top of the hour. I nailed the meaning, I think. It's like in football terms, it's a field goal or the point after. I don't know. Ella, I want to thank you and your team so much for all of the organizational support, all of the networking, everything that brought everybody together today. You were a wonderful partner, my Princess Leia. I'm very grateful to you and all. So we're wrapping up. I'm really thankful for all of your participation. We look forward to connecting with you and helping you and your students make impact in the future. Thanks, everybody. Thanks very much.